Good evening and welcome to the Coach Support Service webinar on the topic of coaching in network marketing. And tonight we're very fortunate to have Richard Winfield of the Breathitt Group and the inventor of invisible coaching to tell us about it and to do a demonstration. So good evening, Richard.
Good evening to you and to our listeners, viewers.
Yeah, that's great. We also have a willing volunteer. This is Ben. Would you like to say hello, Ben?
Hello.
Now, Ben has agreed, without knowing what he's letting himself in for, to be available for Richard to do the method on it, and it's very, very courageous of him. But it's quite painless. Now, I'm about to change the presenter so Richard can show his introductory slides, and we can get moving from there. So. We can't all see the same screens at this stage, so
back to that.
Is it happening? Have you got a screen asking you to agree to become presenter, Richard?
No.
No.
It says you're the presenter on my...
I've got my screen up.
Okay. Now it takes a minute or two for it to swing over.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Yeah, here, show my screen.
We're showing the sort of the general waiting room screen at the moment. Here we go. You're on, Richard.
Right. Shall I go away?
Yes, off you go.
Well, welcome to this short talk about the art of natural coaching in the context of the network marketing business. And I believe that it's absolutely perfect for the network marketing business. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. Then we'll have a demonstration and we'll have some coaching of the coaching. You'll see we have call it coffee shop coaching. This is something we'll come back to, but it was John Donaldson who came up with this term, and it puts it in the context of where you might be doing work as a network marketer. So there are two objectives for my presentation here, is just to show you how you can use coaching to engage prospective customers, which is obviously key to your business, but also to give at least Ben an opportunity to experience the power of coaching and to recognize how useful it can be in developing your team, which is the other flip side, I think, isn't it, of network marketing. Just let me tell you something about myself. You'll see a diagram there to say that I'm a mechanic, but if you look at the diagram, you'll see there's a very strong pointer up to the top left-hand side. It means I'm very focused on looking at and understanding systems, and that's my contribution in terms of the development of this particular approach to coaching, is to really to analyze it down to its minimum and to find out something that's really effective. So what is coaching? Just a big background. Coaching is the art of facilitating the performance of another, and network marketing is a community of people facilitating the performance of another. It's, of course, coaching raises awareness, and the great thing is about this is that once you've changed someone's awareness, they automatically change for themselves. Unlike teaching, they don't have to learn anything and remember it. Once they see things differently, they operate differently. And it empowers individuals to discover their potential and identify how they can achieve it, which I believe is absolutely bang on with the values and processes of network marketing. I don't know, Ben, for example, does that fit in with how you understand the network marketing industry to be?
Let's say how it should be.
Right, so well, we're working towards that, so that's good. The question is, what makes a natural coach? There are lots of people have been trained as coaches, but it's a very formalized sort of thing. Coaching then takes place in a coaching session when the coach knows they're coaching and the other person knows they're being coached. But what I noticed, some people are natural coaches and they can be very effective without any training at all. So my challenge is to identify what is it they do. And the fantastic thing is, the way they do things, they just naturally get the best out of people. And those are the sort of people I think we'd all like to be. So what's the secret of their success? Well, I using my systems thinking, I was trying to get down to the fundamentals of coaching, what was really simple and necessary, but it's a bit of a mouthful. So my colleague here, Gabriella, said, well, it sounds to me like it's invisible coaching. And that's my target, is that the coaching we're talking about is something that comes up in naturally in an ordinary conversation. So it doesn't need to be obvious what's going on. Nothing untoward about it, but it's just a positive way of speaking. I was teaching it in Dubai, and this lady, Julianne, says, I think it's the art of natural coaching. And these things summarize what it is. It is a natural art which is useful for anyone to learn. And then good old John here says, well,
oh, how privileged.
Coffee shop coaching, and that puts it into a really nice context. It's not something that takes place in a coaching studio, in an office or anywhere. It can take place anywhere. We'll look at one or two places in a minute where it can take place. So my definition of invisible coaching is coaching that it's coaching in the moment with just the right word at just the right time, delivered in just the right way. Wonderful to be, but how do you actually achieve that? It just happens. This is what we seek. It's a form of coaching that just happens without formally deciding to. You naturally behave in a way that helps people to change. You know what to say at the right moment and how to say it. So it's the art of natural coaching, very informal. And the core process of invisible coaching is coaching on a credit card. And that's what I say we can teach somebody in less than 16 minutes. And that's what we're going to focus on in this session. So here's one side of the credit card, here's the other side of the credit card. It is actually a credit card side will go in your wallet, so you can carry it around with you. If you need a crib sheet, it's in your pocket. So let's just stop for a moment. Think of you in terms of your network marketing business, in terms of when you might want to make an approach or raise somebody's thoughts about earning some extra money, or in terms of when you're working with your team. So here's one example with a group just having coffee. So what to say, when to say it, how to say it in a way which is natural and easy but will attract attention and engage people in conversation. Or here's the classic case from John in a coffee shop. This could easily be somebody engaging a potential client, or it could be one of the team leaders training a new client. Here again, this is when you might get to the stage where actually making a presentation. This is the business on offer. How do you use your language in a way which will engage rather than just tell? Here, I think you can say we've probably been quite successful in signing them up, but as you know, that's the beginning of a long training session, and the training career is very much helped with coaching skills. And once you've got your teams, then you use these skills actually to develop people as along the way. And there is a bonus. The great thing about this is that once it gets into your neurology, into your natural brain and your way of thinking, you can use it anywhere. And it's particularly good, I believe, in helping with parents. But it's also helpful in any form of social relationships as well as your business relationships. So here's a picture of the credit card itself. And let me tell you how it works. It's exceedingly simple because there is only one thing you need to learn, which is the fundamental coaching question. And you could use this question for the rest of your life with a sufficient rapport, be really effective. And this is it. What would be the most useful question for me to ask you now? So we're putting all of the responsibility and all of the control into the other person. We're not making any assumptions that they are looking for a business opportunity, or they're looking for ways to save money, or they're looking for some sort of health materials or whatever. We just up to what would be the most useful question for me to ask you now. That is all you need to know fundamentally. However, there will be ways in which the conversation evolves, and one of the things very often people say, well, actually I don't know. So what these next ones are, I call these trigger responses. And what I want to get into people's brain is a natural response, so that, for example, anytime anybody ever says to you, I don't know, you automatically say, well, what would it be if you did know? And they're only simple words, but that structure of language automatically unpicks people's thinking, and they will easily then move on and they will be able to answer the question. Next thing is very often you get into a conversation and it's okay, but you think it's a bit going off track. So this is the question to use in this case. When somebody's just said something you're not sure, how does that relate to what you said you wanted? Now, it may well be that it really does relate to them because they've thought of something that you weren't aware of and you're sensibly going in a new direction. Or it may be that you are going off track and this is an opportunity to bring people back onto track. Now, this will be really key, I reckon, in network marketing, because what they will have said they wanted will possibly be about money, it might be about holidays, it might be about lifestyle. So this is a question of deeper questioning into what their conversation is really about, getting them to think beneath. Next, sometimes you're getting really good progress. We think, look, there's more we could get out of this. We could do more than that. So if somebody wants to buy a sports car, you say, what would be even better than that? And they can come up with more ideas. So what would be even better than that helps people to think at a higher or a deeper level. Sometimes, and I used to be classic at this, people know what they don't want. And however hard you work with them, you will never make progress if they focus on what they don't want. So simple question, what do you want instead? And immediately you get people thinking more broadly and more deeply. And lots of complaints, lots of objections, and lots of reasons why you've never done it, or you're not going to do it, or you might not do it. These three words, what stops you? What has stopped you? What might stop you? Get this into your thinking, and you'll get people then to make progress forward. And finally, when you're wanting to draw something to a close, you've made some nice thinking progress, what are you going to do about it? What will you do? And that's it. There's one question on the end. If you want to draw it to a close, you think you made progress, just go back to a version of the first question which says, are there any other questions that it would be useful for me to ask you now? And they can either say, no, I'm happy, or yeah, I'm really worried, and there's this particular objection in network marketing case, for instance, that I might have, or there's this niggly thing about why I really couldn't talk to somebody out in the shopping centre. So, just to summarize, and this is fascinating to me because I've learnt about it as I've been teaching it. The first thing is, it's really easy to learn and easy to do because there are only these 7 questions anyway, and they are on the credit card. You can carry them. They're easy to learn and easy to do. But what's really fascinating is because the person who is being coached controls the content and the direction, we don't need to know what it's about, and it is, in this word, non-intrusive. So there's no sense of being got at, there's no resistance from the person being coached, and as a result it can actually work at a very, very deep level. And because it's content free, then people will deal with things that they would not normally be prepared to deal with a stranger or even with a friend. And lastly, of course, what you're doing all the time is asking the other person to come up with really, really good coaching questions. So you're actually self-learning all the time. Every time you ask somebody to come up with a question, you think, that might be a good question to use in another context. I don't know whether you've come across Sharon Bott, but I'm sure you've come across FLP. She's a very successful leader. Just here to say she's been on our course and found it really, really powerful. And interesting enough, not only is she an FLP leader, but she was also a qualified coach, but still found it was a great breakthrough for her. And this is a case, Sarah, who's another coach, but said specifically being coached, and John will know, being coached is only a 10-minute session on our training courses. She was able to make some dramatic personal results just like that. It's surprisingly easy and amazingly powerful. So, there's 2 things now. If you'd like to ask any technical questions about it, now is the time. Otherwise, I'll take you through it and we'll demonstrate it, and then somebody have a play. So, are there any questions at this stage now?
I did ask somebody this question earlier this week after I'd watched one of your videos. Somebody had not been doing anything for a little while, so I just texted her what would be the most useful system for me, question for me to ask you now, and she came back with a very, she actually answered the question, why aren't you doing anything?
Yeah. So
didn't answer my question. She answered the question I thought I wanted to ask.
Yeah. Did you ask her that question though?
I asked her what would be most useful. I just texted.
Now, right. Now, but just to clarify, then you should then have texted her back. Why aren't you doing anything? Because they ask you the question. We'll come over.
Came back with that answer. She answered why she wasn't doing anything.
Right. Good. And then what did you do?
Answer, but she didn't. Yeah. So it actually broke through. I don't think she'd have answered the question, why aren't you doing anything?
Not if you'd asked it.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. And it's surprising, people are prepared to put themselves on a higher test level than they are prepared to allow you. So, yes. Okay. Anything else anybody would like just to raise before we have a demonstration?
No, I think you're good to go, Richard.
Good to go. Okay. So we've got the questions up here now, so it's the time to practice. So if Ben would like to be the first stage guinea pig, that would be fine by me. Is that okay?
We'll try it. Come on then.
Did you say you're signing off now, Ben?
Yeah, I'm going.
Yeah. Okay, Ben. So you're happy to be a guinea pig, and also you are aware that we're recording this, and therefore it will have a life beyond today. So, what would be the most useful question for me to ask you now?
I think it would be, why do I think I'm not making enough progress?
Okay then, Ben. Well, so why do you think that you're not making enough progress?
I think I'm getting too involved with the process and the system, and I'm not actually operating it.
Okay, right. So what would be the most useful question for me to ask you now that you've made that statement?
Probably why. Why am I not putting it into practice?
Yeah, okay, then why aren't you putting it into practice?
Probably because I want it to work. It's not the normal way people are taught to do things.
Yeah.
I think it's a more logical way of doing things, but because I'm not sure because I'm unsure and uncertain, I've not actually put anybody into the pipeline.
Right. So it's because you're unsure you think that's what's stopping you.
That might be the reason.
Right.
Or might be one of the reasons.
Okay. So what might be some other reasons?
I think the reason why I'm finding it difficult to get candidates into the process, is because they know what I do, that they're making assumptions about what it is that I'm going to ask them to do, or what it is that I'm going to suggest. And they're deciding they're too busy and it's Christmas, and after the New Year it will be Easter, and after that it'll be summer holidays, and after that it'll be Christmas again.
Okay. Right. So that's what you think.
That's what I think.
Right. So what would be the most useful question for me to ask you now?
Perhaps, how can I get around this barrier?
Yeah. So how could you get around that barrier?
I think what I'm trying to do is present stuff in a different way, so that people within the system that I'm working with, I'm working in networking, I'm getting referrals, but people are referring people to me and they're saying what I do. I really don't want to do that.
Right.
I want them to say, I know someone who might be able to help you, not from a utility warehouse.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh no, I'm not interested in that. So It's actually finding candidates that's my main issue.
Right. So, what would be the most useful question for me to ask you now that you know your main issue is finding candidates?
How am I going about it, maybe?
Right. So, how are you going about it, or how could you go about it?
I have
How might you?
I have two plans, two projects in place for that. I have a lead gathering website that I'm putting together, or is being put together for me.
Yeah.
And I also have cards which just have the website name on it. I've got a list of about 500 people that have inquired about it in the past, so it's just a case of getting everything together and pressing the button. Now, if that works, it'll be great, but if it doesn't work, I'm not quite sure where I go from there. So,
yeah, but you don't know.
So
what's stopping you from pressing that button?
Hmm?
What's stopping you from pressing that button?
Well, once it's all ready, nothing really, but
Right.
it should be ready by middle of next week, which is sort of 3 months later than I wanted it to be in place.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's breaking new ground. It's just a barrier that I've got, and I was speaking to someone earlier today. It's something that I've got to get through in order to open it up. So I'm not quite sure what's holding me back.
No. So what would it be if you did know? Take a guess.
I think not being confident to open conversations with people without revealing without revealing what I want from them, what I've got to offer them, basically. It's not what I want from them, because it's what I'm offering to them.
Yeah.
It's actually talking about what I do without telling them what I do, because when they know what I do, they'll jump to conclusions about what they think it is what I do.
Yeah. So I'm not quite sure whether I should ask you, and you can answer either of these, what would be better than where you are now, or what's actually stopping you from doing it when you know what it is? Or even I can ask you a third question, what do you want instead of what you've got at present, this little stuck position?
What I want is a pipeline of people.
Right.
That's really what I need to create.
Right, good.
Not a pipeline of customers, but not a pipeline of distributor candidates.
Right, so it's a pipeline of distributor candidates is what you really want.
That's what I need, because then I can start feeding them into the process.
Yeah, good, okay. So if we could break out for a moment, we haven't spent very long, and we've gone through a few things, but one thing that we have achieved is a very clear goal now that we could then restart the process and work on and on. And what you'll find is, when I teach coaching, it's a little bit like crossing a river using stepping stones. It's not necessarily one easy journey where you just whip across from one side to the other, and you discover these stones as you go along. So you might like to give us some feedback of how we might have helped in your thinking so far, but we've specifically now got a starting point for another process.
Yeah, it's very difficult to answer those questions.
You mean the questions on the credit card?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can get to
they make you think, don't they?
You do. I mean, the number 2 one is an old classic, actually. That's
yes.
When I first did my training for utility warehouse, one of the things that they said, well, you were asking people what they pay for their quarterly phone bill, and nobody knows. You say, what would it be? And it really works. because they can't help out so much. It's really strange question that at first it appears a little bit sort of sarcastic, but it isn't.
No, really that's right. This is all about rapport. If you've got no rapport, it's a hopeless approach. But if you've got the rapport, people don't even notice what's going on. And if I just tell you, I used to be terrible at saying I don't know. And when I said I didn't know, then I'd broken through and I did know. And the blooming people wouldn't ask me again. They'd gone on and they thought, oh, he doesn't know, and walked away. Yeah. So it's sometimes even awkward people like me, if you just ask a second time, that's great. But what would it be if you did know, said in the right tonality and with respect and so on, is amazingly powerful at unblocking people.
Well, I can see the rest of the questions are really logical. I mean, it's a lot better than the sort of Alan Pease list of questions that he asked. What's your top priority? Going on from there. But it's along the same lines. It's actually trying to uncover where somebody is at.
Yes. Yes, the thing about this, the reason I'm keen on it, I started it because the great thing very often is the GROW model, and it's very structured. And I think what you were saying about unpeas, those specific searching questions. The great thing about this is it's not structured in the slightest bit, but it gives you the tools to be totally focused or driven by curiosity, which should be the core of any conversation.
These questions come in any order, don't they? It's not.
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Just a set of questions that you ask according to what the answer you got before was.
That's right. And that's why I've stopped saying there are 7 or however many questions. There's one question and a number of trigger responses. Now, if I just tell you a couple of things that give me real joy, but sometimes I say, what would be the most useful question for me to ask you now? They tell me the question. I ask them the question, and then you can see clearly they go inside themselves and they think, and then they say, "That's a really interesting question." And, we take credit for asking the question. It's their question in the first place. And then the other thing that can happen is as you get the momentum going, they ask you, say, "What would be what would be the most useful question for me to ask you now?" And they tell you ask the question, and they said, "I knew you were going to ask that." And they've sort of subconsciously, deliberately put themselves on a spot they can't escape from. And it's fascinating because the coach doesn't do anything, but the person being coached drives themselves really quite powerfully.
Yes. Yeah, I can see how this would be really useful for most people, but it'll be really useful for 98% of the people in network marketing.
Yeah.
It won't have any effect on the people that know everything already.
No. They do. And they will love all the traditional models of telling.
Yes. But I think from going through that process, it has to be done on a face-to-face training basis. I think I could have done that. I think if we were in the room together, I think that conversation might have gone slightly differently.
Yes.
And you might have asked different questions according to what my body language was doing.
Yes, absolutely. And on the course, we deal with body language. That's right. But if you go back, if you think particularly, I would guess the biggest challenge for anyone in network marketing is, and I think you brought it up yourself, didn't you, is how to engage someone in conversation without starting off as a salesperson. Because network marketing is a consultancy-friendly support recommendation process, isn't it? It's not a selling process. And that's why I think these, particularly variations of these, can be really powerful, because you can be in a conversation about the weather or something, and then you pick up a message from and say, well, what would be a good thing for me to ask about that, or what would you like to tell me about that, or.
Yeah, it's just getting that information. It's in my network marketing process. It's what's which I've developed along with Ed Ladbroke. It's what we call the consult stage.
Yes.
Or the first thing that happens once you make the initial connection with someone.
Yeah.
It's go through a consult process to find out exactly what it is that's giving them pain, and again that sort of relates back to the Sandler selling process as well. But
yeah,
it's identifying what the issue is, or if there's an issue.
Yeah.
And then you can focus on that issue that they have, use away from motivation, and take it from there, basically. But my problem is not getting into enough of those conversations.
All right. So
yeah. Can I just take one thing, John, before we go?
Yeah.
When you're motivating them, because one of the things I think the problem with any system is it's a bit artificial, and one of the things I think about network marketing is it tends to be sold to people who are highly motivated by goal setting and such like, when you actually want people who are highly motivated by running systems and relating to people. But for instance, when you're trying to find out why they might want to earn an extra living, whatever it might be, there's a tendency to say, well, wouldn't it be nice to have an extra holiday, or wouldn't it be nice to have a sports car, or think of this, you have your own yacht. But I think what would be even better than that will help you to get to the emotional thing, which will be to do with security, recognition, and those sorts of things. And to get away from this thing, well, actually, it's all materialistic. Because it isn't materialistic. It's all the other things that network marketing brings.
So, yeah, well, okay. So my suggestion, if you're agreeable, Ben, is why don't you pitch me? So I could do it. Well, it depends what Richard thinks. I can either find a problem for you to do it with, or you can do it as if I was a prospect, business prospect, a network marketing prospect. What do you think?
Well, I think, John, if you are prospecting, the last thing you should be doing is pitching.
No, all right. All right, fine. Yeah, yes, right.
Engaging, building conversation, and listening for hints. And if you pick up a message, I mean, it's what I do when I'm coaching. I just listen to what people say, and I notice things, and then I can bring those back, and things can develop.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say you start, well, that's nice. Do you enjoy your coffee? By the way, how much do you pay for your gas bill? You would talk about things, and then you would identify that, it's so blooming frustrating because our company's going through a big bad time at present, or my wife's ill, or we couldn't have a holiday or something. Then you can pick it up, but you don't start. So no. I think it must always start completely open, and just see what happens.
Okay, well, I just wanted I was going to suggest that, it's up to Ben if he wants to do this, something like to take a situation where you feel this might be useful, and I'll do my best to play along with it, but I will be honest in answering the questions.
So if you want to set up, let's say we're
can I say I don't do role play. I do real play, and I think the point is.
All right, then we'll do a real one.
You see, we can't create a context really, because you ask what would be the most useful question for me to ask you now. John will tell you the question, so you can't set it up. It's entirely up to what John does. Now, John might play along with us a bit tonight, but it's nothing to do with the coach, because you're just taking it on trust that if you engage someone in conversation, you will identify something you could pick up on. And if you pick up on nothing and you just change their life, well, that'll give you some good testimonials or whatever.
Yeah.
I think the most useful thing for me would be to go through this normally as if John was either a member of my team or someone I was coaching anyway. Do it like that, because that's. I just need to get used to using these questions before I actually do it on someone who's.
Absolutely.
So, do you want to give it a go, John?
Oh yes, yeah. And I have at the moment no idea what I'm going to come up with, but.
But you never do when you meet somebody, do you?
No.
If it's an informal meeting, you might speak about the weather, but you didn't intend to speak about the weather, but it just, you open your mouth and something comes out.
Yeah, okay.
Okay then, shall we
Yeah.
go? Right. Okay, John, what would be the most useful question for me to ask you now?
Whether I should send a letter to my daughter or not.
What stops you?
No. Right. The first lesson. Yeah. You must ask the question he's asked you to ask.
Right. Okay.
Now, you have a decision to make before asking. You can ask it exactly in the tonality he used, or you can change the tonality in a way which might help him to think about the question slightly differently. But you must ask the question as near as possible to the one he asked, because you're not interrogating him, you're coaching him.
Right.
So now ask John the question about whether he should send a letter to his daughter.
Okay, John, should you send a letter to your daughter or not?
Well, I think there's a situation which has gone on for a few months, which I've been avoiding doing anything about, and various things are causing it to come will cause it to come to a head. So, if I write to I can take control of the situation, or try to take control of the situation. Whereas if I do nothing, I've no idea how it's going to develop, and it could be very messy.
So what would be the most useful question for me to ask you now?
What is stopping me sending a letter? Why am I hesitant about sending this letter?
So what is stopping you?
Well, it's knowing what tone to adopt for the best. Yeah. There are a variety of different tones of letter I could send.
What would be the most useful question for me to ask?
Now, can I just have a look at question 2?
I was not sure whether to go there or...
Yeah. And I would just say pick out the word tone. So what tone would it be if you did know?
Right, I get that. So John, what tone?
I'm breaking the rules slightly, but you're still mirroring back or feeding back exactly what it is that is said.
Yes. Right. So what tone would it be
if you did know?
Yeah, I think.
What tone would it be?
Yeah, I'm inclined to think that the best way is to adopt quite a firm tone, rather than a placatory one, which would be the sort of obvious one. Or it might, which is probably what she's expecting or would back or could ignore. But I'm thinking it's also a question of what's the downside, what is there to lose? Because obviously the more firm I am, the more sort of what was the word I used? I took a firm tone. The danger is that she might sort of like completely sort of pull away, or it might make things worse. But then, so it's really, that's my answer. Adopting a firm tone, but sufficiently reasonable that it's a good chance it would be acceptable.
So what would be then better than acceptable?
Bang on. Now, just say what would be better than that.
What would be better than that, yeah.
But you're allowing him to take any bit of the whole lot he's just talked about.
Right. Yes.
So in tone, we focused exactly what it was he was saying, because he was saying one thing. But here we've had a little bit of a ramble around, and we don't know what is the critical bit. So just use that.
So what would be even better than that?
Well, if adopting the firm tone shakes her out of a kind of sort of muggy complacency about the situation, where she feels she's right and justified in taking the stand she has, and she's sort of expecting me to take it lying down. Now, if I do, the situation will just stay the same, so it'll just continue to fester. The only chance is that if I come back with a firm line saying, this is how it is, and this is my viewpoint, and this is what I propose, take it or leave it, even if she left it, it wouldn't be any worse than it is now, and then it would be better if she took it.
So how does that relate to what you said you wanted?
Well, the writing the letter, which was my starting point, would be to try and handle or improve or resolve the ongoing situation with my daughter. So to get that resolution, well, I've already said it would be better for me to do something than do nothing. And doing something can't make the situation worse, but it might make it better.
What will you do?
No. I've already drafted a letter, but I've been very hesitant about sending it. I mean, I could modify it, wording slightly, but I have been hesitant about sending it because it might make the situation worse. But as I said, it can't really make it much worse than it is now, which is a kind of standoff. And it might achieve the breakthrough. It's about the only thing that could achieve a breakthrough.
So again,
so how are we getting on? Would you like to just to have a review?
Yeah.
yes.
Can I just like to comment on the last one? And clearly, excuse me, but I'm doing this for years, so but it help you, I think, to pick out some of the subtleties. What John's just been talking about was, up till now, has been whether or not to write a letter.
Yeah.
And in the last little bit of a ramble, now rambles are really interesting because that's where the stuff starts to come out. He actually said something about resolving the situation. So my perception is, if you then said, what would be the most useful question for me to ask you now, he might have been ready to say, well, actually, how can I go about resolving the situation? And we've now broken out of sort of a box sort of thinking into something bigger. And that's exactly what happened with you, if you remember. We were talking about something, and then we managed at the end, out popped a goal which was more specific. It would be something we could have worked on in another iteration. Is that fair, John? Do you think
it is true? It is true, because that is what's actually happened. Just let me track back, because I was sort of thinking as you were saying that. At the point where I'd answered Ben's question, I thought to myself, yes, this is pushing for a resolution, because not having a resolution as it is now is very unsatisfactory, and if it's just left, then it's going to compound the unsatisfactoriness. So now something you said then, just Richard, which really sparked. Can you just run back what you said?
No.
You really did connect. I mean, you have really, both of you have really got me into this thing.
Yes. Well, let me just go back a little bit further, because the first question you asked was, should I or should I not write a letter? Which
Yeah.
is very frustrating to me because that's a closed question. There's only yes or no.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing, when we got to the point about, well, actually, what might be the best resolution, we now have an open question, so we can start to make progress. So at that point, if Ben had said, well, what would be the most useful question, John, for me to ask you now, I think you would have gone, probably would be beginning to focus in on well, actually, are there other ways of resolving it? Is that right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I haven't thought of any other ways of resolving it, because
That doesn't matter because we haven't done that bit of work yet.
Right. Yeah, okay.
But
So we're after resolving it. We've got to the point of
yes. So this comes back to my stepping stones theory, is that you don't focus on. You might know where you want to go, but you make little steps, and you're surprised how much progress you've made if you look back.
Mm.
And the danger normally, particularly with a more training type of coaching, is that you're stuck with the original goal when in fact it's become redundant.
Yeah.
And you're trying focusing on this, and it's all about how to make money or something, when it's actually about the worry about somebody's health or redundancy or something, and you've missed it because you're stuck in a system.
Yeah. Okay, so do you want to take it any further? What do you think, Richard?
Well, we've got another 6 or 7 minutes, if you like. Yeah. What would either of you like to do? I don't know whether any questions have come in from outside.
No, nothing. No. Very. I think the audience is very impressed.
They're stunned.
Stunned, that's the word I wanted, yeah.
How are you doing out there? It's the great point about this is I'm going to show you in another slide. There's a website of mine which you can go to, which is designed to sell you a program, but don't worry about that. There are actually about 4 demonstration videos that you can sign up for.
Oh, right,
and that would
excellent.
be quite nice.
Yeah. Well, do you want to move ahead to do that now then, Richard?
Right.
I think I can handle the situation. Thank you very much, Ben, for and Richard for helping with that.
Right. Well, we can always come back offline.
Yeah.
Anyway, then, can't you?
Yeah.
But as I was saying, this is a special offer, only that I'm making it as a special offer. There's no special discount or anything. But there are...
you can't get cheaper than free, as one of my uplines used to say.
That's right. No, but if you go to invisible-coaching.com and you put in your details, you will get 3 or 4 web videos demonstrating it and also showing some feedback from people about how successful it's been with them.
Yeah.
And I've been surprised at the success because it's certainly more successful than I expected it to be. And if you are interested in taking a multimedia video course, then that's a very good deal. We've got special deals on anyway all the time. But more demonstrations of the reality.
Okay, so what in the last few minutes?
I've got a coaching tomorrow, so I'm going to have a go at this with him. So we'll see how.
Excellent, very good. Well, let us know how you get on with that, Ben.
Yeah, a friend of mine said, but I think I can do this one.
Yeah, I must say this session has re-stimulated me, because I know someone who I really could have used it. A few occasions I could have used this and I failed to do so. So I'm going to try and bring about another situation to use it in this coming weekend, I hope.
And one way to learn it, of course, is just to take one of those questions at a time and keep it in the back of your mind and notice when you could use it and use it then.
Yeah, yes, indeed. Well, now, let me just...
They're natural responses, they're triggers. When you hear somebody say something, ooh, and that's what happens in conversation. You hear someone say, oh, yes, I got a BMW. And they say, oh, have you really? I'm thinking of buying a BMW. The conversation goes from trigger to trigger, doesn't it? Mm. So if your brain gradually becomes alert to each of those trigger questions, then you'll be developing a skill without even noticing.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, can I draw things together as we're coming to the end now, and just put on the table the suggestion which we were talking about earlier, and just see what Ben's reaction is if we were able to organise a physical get-together of people, perhaps for a day, well, half a day or a day, or let's say it depends on time. Let's say it might be a shortish day, say from 10 till 4. Yeah. From what you've seen, Ben, do you think that that would be a good way to get people not just train, but doing it and doing it enough to be able to feel that they can go out with this skill and at least start to try it on a few people? They may need later refreshers, but at least to get them going.
I think it would be very instructive for some people. I think probably a half day is more like what to start it off with. But again, if you've got a dozen people there for half a day, then you've got enough time for everybody to practice it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the practical thing is that Richard is based in the Midlands. Of the people who were on before, we've got London, Gloucestershire, and well, the Northwest. So it was, and I know the one I attended with Richard 18 months ago was near the NEC, and it seemed a very good location. Then with travelling time, we might well be down to half a day by the time people...
It's 2 hours down to Peter Thompson's from me, so it's about the same area, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, exactly, yeah.
Going to be, and it's sort of an hour and a half from London, and so Midlands is probably the right place. Everybody's got about an hour and a half to 2 hours to get there.
Yeah. Well, once if people just get the message that it's so simple, the biggest resistance is people think it's too. There must be something sophisticated. You get the message it's so simple, and you have a credit card, then they can practice it in their own teams as part of their normal team development. So
absolutely,
it has a life beyond the introduction.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Well, if that's agreeable, gents, I'll propose the idea to the other people who've been involved in this pilot group, as it were, and see whether early in the new year there is sufficient positive response to try and organise such a day or a half day, as we sort of said. Plus,
4 or 5 hours is sufficient, I would think.
Yes. Well, it was very concentrated. And my thought was the one I went to with Richard was on Saturday. Would you think that Saturday was the best day to go for?
Oh, it's difficult with our network marketing. Yes. No, if we're targeting at network marketing leaders, they're going to be available during the week.
They're going to be available, what? So do you say?
Most network marketing leaders or halfway up leaders like myself will be available during the week.
Right, okay.
And they tend to do other things at weekends, like going out in the field and doing team meetings and that sort of thing. Right. So I would think, well, my gut feeling is a weekday.
All right, okay, fine. Well, we'll float that.
So John, this has been recorded, hasn't it? And will become available elsewhere. On this slide, it tells them how to get in touch with me.
Yes.
And if they're interested in organising something, they should get in touch with you. So have you got a closing slide or something which tells them about how to contact the Coach Support Service?
Good thinking. Do you want to change back to me, and I'll get a suitable slide up?
Yep. Okay, I've gone.
Actually, I don't have one here on this one. Let's get back to another one. Let's try that one. No. I'll say it out now. If anyone wants to get in touch with me on this, it's John Donaldson, Coach Support Service, and the email address is johnd, Johnd, at coachsupportservice.org. So it's no dots, no dashes. Just remember, coachsupportservice.org, and that will reach me. But most of the people I think who will be getting this, at least initially, will be people who already know me and I'm already in contact with. so hopefully you won't have any difficulty getting in touch with me. But I do hope you will, in the meantime, go and look at Richard's slides. And I remember one particular one which you did a copy for me, Richard. In fact, do you still have any of those DVDs, the one that you gave me?
No, I haven't got those, I'm afraid. It's all online.
It's all online. Okay, fine. That's the modern thing. So go and look at Richard's thing. At the moment, you can see my very... you can see my screen, can you? At the moment, I think that I'm showing.
No.
No, you can't. I wonder why.
I'm desperate to do so, but I'm off my screen.
Yeah, I've lost my go-to-webinar.
What can Ben see?
Oh, I don't know. What can you see, Ben?
You understand the
coaching in network marketing, the black on white one, which is the interim, the waiting room one. Yeah. Okay, so I probably got to accept that I'm now the presenter.
No, you're not, according to the thing on this.
No, I just found the slide.
Okay, you're on now. You're on now.
Right, fine. Okay, fine, gents. So let's just finish off with a degree of. There we go. What's all that about? Please close confidential. Okay, show my screen. So thank you very much, gentlemen, and thank you to our attendees. It's been very useful. I'm glad we're sticking to the hour because I don't really want things to run over. Richard summed it up so well that it's really remarkably pithy, remarkably effective, as you've seen this evening. And while it's easy to learn, it does take practice to get it going. And I mean, I can say this myself. When I first did it, I was trying on all sorts of people, but I gradually lost it. And now I'm full of enthusiasm to get going with it again. But it does work, and I've seen it work in a whole variety of situations. So hopefully this has been valuable for the people who are watching it, and it will lead on to other things. This is not the slide I wanted. There we are, Coaching Network Back. So thank you to Richard of the Breffy Group and inventor of visible coaching, also known as natural coaching and now coffee shop coaching. And this is John Donaldson, the Coach Support Service. Thank you for your attention, and we'll be talking again soon. Good night.
And thank you, Ben, for volunteering from the audience.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.